Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Road to Cheltenham Diversion in association with Paddy Power, a show where we look at all the things off-piste from the main Road to Cheltenham show in the company of Brendan Duke and Ryan McCue. And I did ask Lydia and Ruby what they thought of this new show idea.
So, Ruby, have you heard that they're doing this spin-off show for Road to Cheltenham?
What does that mean?
A sort of, this is like Big Brother, and so the spin-off show is like going to be like Big Brother's little brother, or we're Strictly and they're going to be Take Two, or we're Bake Off and they're Extra Slice.
So that means they're going to get two people to literally rip us apart, yeah?
I think essentially that was the pitch. Yeah, that was the premise. It's going to be called the Diversion.
So they've gone and got the Grinch to play me, and they're going to get someone that likes a bit of pot to play you there.
What do you mean? This is obviously a spider plant.
All right, how it is, yeah.
The pot's at the back.
I thought you were cultivating stuff in that room up there, wherever you are. There's that many plants in it.
That's what they think, but it's time to see what my guests think of their show. Hi, guys, and hi to Brendan Duke and to Ryan McCue as well. Firstly, Brendan, hope you're well, and did you enjoy their show this week?
Yeah. I mean, it was a solid show. It was fine. I don't maybe get as excited about Cheltenham as they do, but it was grand. I enjoyed it. Excellent.
Were you in concurrence with that, Ryan?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I just think every week we kind of learn something new from Ruby. He was chatting about Derek Fox's hand position up to straight in Cheltenham on the horse that was hanging. So I think every week we see something through his eyes, which is a nice thing to see. Given he's multiple time champion.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely always worth listening to, isn't he? But first up this week, I caught up with Lydia after the show and had a chat about her in this week's Road Revelation. This week's Road Revelation comes from Lydia, and the revelation isn't the fact that she's had a fine haircut. It is, I put it to you, Lydia, what's the best ante-post bet you've ever had?
Now, Tom, this forced me to actually go to my records because, like all great racing anoraks, I keep records. So there they are. So I actually went back and had a look in my records, and it depends on what you want, really. Are you after the one that gave me most satisfaction, the best one in terms of actually landing, or just kind of conversion rate, as in the fanciest odds? What are you after? Because I can answer all three.
Well, I would love to hear all three, but I think first up, the most satisfying one would be best, because I think we love an ante-post bet that comes in that makes us feel that warm feeling inside, don't we?
Well, funny enough, this one that didn't win. I know that may sound quite bizarre, but it was Jack Adam, and regular readers of the Road to Cheltenham column will know that I'm mildly obsessed with Jack Adam. And after he fell in the JLT, which I'd also backed him for, going well 4 out, I thought, you're going to win a Gold Cup. And so I struck a bet at 66-1 for the 2016 Gold Cup. So not the following season, being too clever. Thought that Willie Mullins would go for the Ryanair the following season with such a young horse and would wait for the Gold Cup. I was betting without. I wasn't really thinking through Willie Mullins's then obsession with winning a Gold Cup, because he hadn't at the time. So 66-1 for the 2016 Gold Cup. Then obviously I was compelled, once he was running in the 2015 Gold Cup, to back him at the rather less rewarding odds of 16-1. And as everybody knows, he finished second on both occasions. But weirdly, that 66-1 bet struck in April 2014 for 2016 gives me a weird sense of satisfaction. I don't know why.
Well, in hindsight, I'd say it's a pretty shrewd pick, really, because he's probably the best horse ever not to win a Gold Cup, or at least he must be in the equation.
I think Wayward Lad would probably make you wash your mouth out. But yeah, I mean, he's certainly a very, very, very good horse.
In the 2015 one, that was Coneybury, wasn't he, who beat him?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because I remember that was my first I joined the Racing Post just before that. It was my first couple of weeks in the job, and I didn't really know my team very well. And I backed Coneybury about 8-1, and they were all on Jack Adam at 33.
Oh no!
Yeah, and they were all kind of, keeping it quiet to themselves, hoping that Jack Adam would go by. But I was just screaming him home, and everyone was just looking like, who is this new idiot come in? We all hate him. Luckily, though, they came round in the end.
I was going to say, and you joined us a couple of days later?
Yeah, I wish I had. So that's your most satisfying.
Yes.
What's next up on the list?
Okay, so the best sort of conversion would be Rule Supreme for the 2004 Royal and Sun Alliance Chase, as it was then called. It's had many names since now, the Festival Novices Chase. This was before I really sort of started betting properly, and I was sort of I was racing correspondent of the Evening Standard. I spoke to Willie Mullins about why this horse had been entered in the Gold Cup and wrote a piece about it. And he explained that it got a Gold Cup entry because that's how good he thought the horse was. And but he would most likely to run in the novices event, the Royal and Sun Alliance Chase. So I wrote the piece, it was published, and I would say it would have been about a day later, I sort of out of interest went to see what price Rule Supreme was on Betfair, because the exchanges were in very early days then, and was astonished to find him at 209 to 1. So I backed him at everything they had from 210 down to 120. So I bet less than £100 and ended up winning about 12,000.
That is remarkable. I'm amazed that's not top of your list, to be honest. That's quite an achievement.
Yeah, that was fun. It was totally unexpected. I'd almost forgotten. It was only when Real Supreme lined up that I thought, oh God, yeah. By that point, I'd kind of given up on his jumping, but he held it together on that day. Probably the best ones that I've done, disappointingly for Road to Cheltenham fans, were probably in the Oaks. I'm a bit of an Oaks ante-post person. I always think there's quite a bit of value in that market, because the horses that are in the early stages at the top of the market are the fillies that have done well as 2-year-olds, and quite often they are not Oaks fillies. So I look here at 33s for the 2008 Oaks and Tigruda at 25s for the 2014 Oaks. So those are my humble brags. Everybody loves talking about ante-post betting though, don't they?
I'd say backing Rule Supreme so far in advance, which of course is her best ante-post bet, is pretty impressive. And it's certainly something you couldn't do nowadays. It's such a big price. That was back in 2004, particularly a horse like that coming from such a big yard. Brendan, if I can ask you, what's your best ante-post bet, if one sticks out, or one that lived long in the memory?
Oh, absolutely, Tom. Any excuse to after time. I backed Paisley Park after he won in Haydock. He won a handicap in Haydock. It was third jump of the last, I think. Winged up the hill and won. And I backed him before he then stepped into graded company in Ascot, and he won there. And then he won on Trials Day in Cheltenham, and then of course he won the Stairs Hurdle. So that was a beautiful thing. Yeah,
lovely stuff. What about you, Ryan?
I was one of those lucky people to get on the bake at 1,001 on the machine when he won the Supreme. Fantastic. Yeah. For it was small money admittedly, but that's all you needed. Them prices. I was the first 1,000 winner I back, and I can't imagine I'll back another 1,000 winner in my life. So, no, that was a good day. And I remember back in Carlingford Lock for the Galway Hurdle. One year he ended up winning the consolation race. I was on him at 20 to 1 after he won in Bellewstown for the Galway Hurdle, and he bolted in the consolation race. Subsequently went on to win grade 1 chases over fences. So that was a disappointing one, but the Bake is definitely my top one. I don't think that'll be topped.
No, I don't think the Bake will ever be topped by anyone, to be honest. My best one was probably back in Go Native for the Supreme a few years ago, quite a long time ago now, actually. I think it was about 2010, wasn't it? But the worst ante-post bet I've ever had was an Ergumin last year to run the RSA, and he ended up not even running at all at Cheltenham, but he was going to go for the 2-miler, even if he did. So that was a pretty bad bet, I have to say. But
you're only a mile out. You're only a mile out for twice then.
Exactly. That's what I also think on my runs, but definitely feels like longer than a mile most of the time. Great. Now moving on to a segment of the show that I'm going to call Ruby Waxed, where we scour the Road to Cheltenham show for any semblance of Ruby enthusing about a horse. It is usually quite tough, but we did actually find this.
He did look to be the best horse on offer, or potentially the best horse on offer last weekend at Cheltenham. And we're going to analyse him because I think both Harry and Dan have a plan here, and they're both setting about it in a very productive way. Now, if you watch My Drogo, we'll pick him up going to the 4th fence. Look at Harry Skelton's hands, the much contact he has with My Drogo's mouth all the time. And again at the 5th fence. And that's trying to put as much power as he can to My Drogo's hind end. You see him at the 6th fence where he completely shortens him up, but going to the 7th, when he lets him run forward, he quickens and almost has himself on top of the fence. He really does attack his fences, My Drogo. Now at the 10th fence, where he stretches for it, again, watch Harry's hands. Even though he squeezes for a long stride, he never lets go of his head. Yet My Drogo only barely gets there and lands in the middle of the ditch. He lengthens to the 12th fence again, but as Harry says, go on, he's right on top of the fence. This horse really wants to get there. Takes him back, really takes him back at 4 out. He's good again at the second last, but to the last, when Harry lets him down, he doesn't get much elevation. He's quite low and flat. And the more you think about the way Harry rode him all the way through the race, the more you realize that this is a real work in progress. And Harry Skelton is helping this horse all the time, and he's going to need more experience. But the contact between Harry Skelton's hands, the horse's mouth, that's to keep the power in the horse's back end. And when you watch him at the last, you realize why Harry Skelton is doing it.
And Ruby was also pretty complimentary on one ride at Cheltenham. I'm not sure I've ever seen him, at least in the last couple of shows, talking about a ride enthusiastically, but he definitely did with this one.
In turn, the Civil was good at Cheltenham, and Chester Williams, I think you were working with Jonathan Neeson, and he quite correctly pointed out it was a very, very good ride. And look, he gets to the front quite quickly on In Turn the Civil, who jumped the first really well. And if you watch them with the third hurdle, In Turn the Savola is in front, York Scene, the green colours, is your favourite. And even though they're not going quick, there's a fair gap from the horse in front to those at the back of mid-division. Fourth hurdle, In Turn the Savola was very good. At the sixth hurdle, if you watch him, he pings it, but he lands running, and he's doing it so easily in front. They're all bunched up behind him down to 2 out, where he jumps it well. But as they move away from the second last hurdle, In Turn the Savola looks so comfortable compared to the rest of them. And around the bend, if you keep looking at the running rail on the inside, Chester Williams is well off the end of that running rail and almost to the road before he has to drop his rear end in the saddle and ask In Turn the Savola to go. And if you're making the running on the new course in Cheltenham, and you can get that far up the hill before you've had to ask, you're going to get to the line. And this horse, it was messy at the last, wasn't his best jump, but he picks up again, and you'd love the way he hits the line then. It was a really good ride, but I also thought the best horse still won.
Right, a question for you both guys. With horses battle-hardened in Ireland and My Drogo running in fields of 2 or 3 runners, and it all really going his own way, of course, despite falling against Gin on Lime. Ryan, I'll start with you here. Do you think My Drogo has what's required to perform to a high level at the Cheltenham Festival?
Definitely to perform at a high level, Tom. I'm just not sure whether he's good enough to beat the likes of Bob Wallinger. Obviously, we haven't seen appreciate it yet. So them 2 horses, in my eyes, would be better than My Drogo. Although I was impressed with him last time with his jumping. He made a few little bits of resemblance and mistakes, but I think he'll be fine come March. He's plenty of time to get more practice in before then. But as ability goes, I think Bob Wallinger is in a kind of different league to him. I think kind of when you look at the ante-post markets for the Arkle with Edward Stone and then the Turners, obviously with My Drogo, I think the UK are trying to find the horse that can challenge the likes of Appreciated and Bob Wallinger. And I obviously kind of think they have that with My Drogo, but in my opinion, when you see what happened to Brave Man's Game last year, what Bob Wallinger done to him, I think it'll be a similar story come March. So he's around 7-1 for the Turners at the moment. He's a long way off Bob Wallinger in the betting, and I think that's probably justified.
Yeah, from what I've seen, I think that's probably fair as well. And obviously what he's been beating My Drogo isn't anything to the level that Bob Wallinger has. Brendan, come to you with the same kind of question, really. Do you think My Drogo has got what it takes?
I think you make a fair point about these small fields. I mean, I fall for this often with horses when they make an impressive fencing debut, when they're in their comfort zone, up the front. And then ideally I was in Naas during the week, and it was a proper novice chase there. I think there were 6 horses in with a chance coming down to the second last, and Capodanno won at the end. But it was a really good race, and you would think, of course, those races would be much more useful to steal a horse for a test that he's going to face at the festival. So My Drogo looks good. I really like the way he attacks his fences, but you make a fair point. He's getting it pretty easy over there. And I'm not sure what they do about that, because they'd have to sort of go looking for the opposition, because they're going to struggle to find opposition over there. I mean, would Brave Man's Game take him on? Is that a possibility? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the camp of thinking My Drogo could be a potential superstar. I was at Plumpton last week, actually, and I was with a couple of old colleagues, one of whom is absolutely convinced, he's a very good judge as well, that My Drogo is the second coming. But certainly if he takes on Bob Wallinger at the festival, it's going to be something to behold, I have to say. And Ruby's also pretty complimentary about Blazing Cal. It's been a Ruby Walsh love-in this week. I don't think we can say that every week, but certainly Blazing Cal looked pretty good at Cheltenham, didn't he, Brendan?
He did. They mentioned the price. They think the price is a little bit short, but you can sort of see it from the bookie's perspective, can't you? I mean, if you're talking about a Ginto or a Hollow Games, you don't know what race they're going to go for in Cheltenham. You can be 99% sure that if Blazing Cal is fitting well, he'll be running in the Albert Bartlett. So he looks a worthy favourite to me. I take their point. It's usually a competitive race. You're probably looking at 3 or 4 to win the field, and you'd have to go and maybe if they dropped it down for that 2-5 race in Leopardstown at the Dublin Racing Festival, I don't know if that's on the agenda, but he'd probably have to go and win a race like that to be significantly shorter on the day. So yeah, I still think he's the right favourite though.
Yeah, I like what Ruby said about his jump 2 out, which was really bad. He absolutely clattered the flight. And despite not really losing a huge amount of momentum, he actually picked up the bridle quite quickly again. Ruby said that was an example of a pretty smart horse, particularly in a race of that nature. Ryan, what do you think about Blazing Cal?
Yeah, I couldn't have him at the price. We're 9-2 now. We were 8-1. I think we were before he won last weekend. But for me, he's way too short. He's probably the second worst priced horse at the festival behind John Bon, in my opinion. I don't think I agree with what Lydia said. I don't think we've seen enough like what will turn up in March. I think we haven't seen half them at the moment. Like the ground hasn't got soft enough to see them. When you look at what Willie's ran so far, he's obviously ran a few last weekend over fences, but I don't think he's brought out too many. So I think there's plenty more to come into the mix in that race. And personally, I'd have Hollow Games. I think Hollow Games might end up here myself, and I think Hollow Games is a much better horse than Blazing Cal. So I would definitely have them closer in the betting together. As Brendan said, Blazing Cal, this is his target, but 9-2 for me. Like, how short can he go off on the day? If you're to tell me he'd go off 3-1, that's probably the shortest he can go off. So I think he's no value at the moment in 9-2. Give him a 3 months away from the fest.
Yeah, and I agree with what you say about Hollow Games. Big fan of that horse. He just keeps on finding under pressure, doesn't he? I've seen him in trouble a couple of times, but he's got a lot of stamina and a lot of guts. I think could be just the type. I agree with you for that race. Right, moving on now to Shishkin. Where are you? Since the Tingle Creek, Shishkin, of course, has been a talking point about just where we're likely to see him next. At this rate, it'll be at the 2030 Burley Horse Trials. But I know you at Paddy Power guys have priced up how many times we're likely to see him this season. Ryan, it's a pretty good market, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's stirring a little bit of interest in fairness. We've to run 3 times we have favourite at even money. 2 is next in at 6-4. 4 or more is 5-2, which I don't think will be too popular given the start of the season. 1 is in there 6-1, and then Public Racecourse Gallop, but no run is in there 33-1. I'm sure it'll be the odd 5 flown on that one.
And it probably wouldn't be the most misplaced 5 of all time either.
No, it wouldn't.
No. Let's see what Lydia had to say on the matter.
I think 3 is the right answer. Whether it's the Desert Orchid or the Game Spirit, I don't know. I suppose if it's the Desert Orchid, then there's the possibility of 4 by going to the Game Spirit as well. He would be a horse, if he only has the 1 prior to the Queen Mother Champion Chase, he's a novice facing seasoned 2-mile chasers who has only had 1 run inside open company. So outside of novice company, he's a very, very good jumper, clearly, but it's a whole different ball game. And you see horses being very, very different beasts in open company. I mean, Nibinegro would be one compared to where they were as a novice. I mean, he was a championship level novice, and he's a premiership level open chaser.
So Lydia thinks 3 times Shishkin to run later in the season. I think I probably agree, whether it's Kempton or Newbury, but of course he's also almost certainly going to run in the champion chase and probably at Sandown as well, I would say. Brendan, do you think 3 times for Shishkin to run is probably about right?
That sounds about right, yeah. I mean, that would certainly be his plan. Excuse me. He'll have to have a run before the champion chase, either the Desert Orchid or the Race of Newbury, as you mentioned. And he'll have to, well, I say have to. I mean, Henderson hates running horses. He'll do everything he can not to run them. But assuming the horse is 100%, you'll have to run in the champion chase. And then he does seem to like that celebration chase. So that story checks out, Tom. Yeah, I like that.
Lovely. What about you, Ryan? Are you tempted by that 33-1 at all? It's not for me now, but I think the even money is the price it should be. Like you're taking it on kind of trust that he stays sound, and I think he's 100% happy with him. I think he has to be 120% happy with him from the run. So yeah, even money 3. I don't think we're going to see too many bets on it. It's one of them novelty markets, but at least it's up there for punters to have a look.
Yeah, certainly is. We'll come on to Ahoy Senor later, because I know there's a new price about him as well. But in the meantime, it's now time for a section I'm calling the Multiverse. Who came up with these ridiculous names? Lads, are you a fan, I should say, of multiple betting in advance of Cheltenham? Ryan, starting with you, because everywhere I go, all the people I talk to, at least in the office that I'm in at the moment, Racing TV, everyone's got at least 2 or 3 minimum multiples on for Cheltenham. Are you kind of in that camp as well?
I generally wait till around January time to do a multi. Might be Lucky 15 or that small stake Lucky 15, just to try and pick out a few horses at bigger price that I think might turn up in the races. But generally, I'll keep my multis until the day of race. You're getting the best odds. You're guaranteed. You're getting the extra places. There's a lot of concessions you're getting on the day. So I'll try and do the life changer in around January for small money, big prices, and then I'll wait down to the festival. I actually done a double last year. We shouldn't go too well. I was on Sir Gerhard in the bumper at around 5-1 in a double with Envoy Allen at 6-4. So that ended on the Thursday early. So it just goes to show that you could, like, when he turned up, he's a short price. Sir Gerhard got the job done the night before, going into Thursday thinking I just have to go up and collect my docket, and it didn't materialize that way. So
yeah, I think you and many others thought it was just going to be easy as that for Envoy Allen. If I had to ask you and put you on the spot here just quickly for, let's say, a 3 or 4 horse multiple at the moment for the Cheltenham Festival, you had to pick 3 or 4 horses now, what would you come up with?
Well, I think Hollow Games in the Albert Bartlett, I think he's around 8-1 chance. I think he's a decent price. Constitution Hill probably in the Supreme. I think he's better than John Bond myself. I'd probably stick him in. I'd have to have a think of another one. I know my only ante-post bet for Cheltenham so far was a single about a month and a half ago, and that's not going well at the moment. I backed Gars to Sow for the National Run Chase, and he came out and got ran over at the beginning of Chase at Ferriers last week. So because he's in the J. McManus Silks, I'm not giving up hope. As come March, I think they'll probably all fly, but at the moment that doesn't look too well.
Yeah, I thought he really needed that run, didn't he? And they all seem to be going far too quickly for him. So hopefully that extra distance is going to suit him. Okay, lovely stuff, Ryan. What about you, Brendan? If I had to ask you about a potential multiple you'd have at the Cheltenham Festival.
Potential multiple. Well, maybe I'd try and work out which, because I like Hollow Games, but I also really like Ginto as well. I'd maybe have to sit down and have a think about which race. They're not going to run against, well, I don't think they're going to run against one another. So you'd be getting a bit of value if you put them in a double and you worked it out, which one goes for the Ballymore and which one goes for the Albert Bartlett. Now, of course, one of them could get injured. I know that, but when you're talking about a double at those prices, you could take a chance. But I'd have to sit down and think of it. I was kind of thinking Hollow Games for the Ballymore and Ginto for the Albert Bartlett, just to throw a spanner into your work. So I mean, it's tricky, but I think that like you were slating yourself over Energamine, but that was a reasonable bet. Obviously, it didn't work out. But then if you could stick him in a double with the one of Willie's that you think is going to run in the Arc, that could come into quite a tidy wager. Now it's all very. You're talking about the multiverse. This is all the metaverse. You'd be tying yourself in knots, thinking, trying to get inside the head of Willie Mullins. But if you got it right, it would pay off.
Yeah, no, certainly would. I'm going to put in Saint Felicien, who we've hardly seen yet, but he looks very exciting. I'm going to go with you as well, Ryan, and put Constitution Hill in. I think he's nailed on for either Supreme or the Ballymore, probably the Supreme. And I'm going to go with the British Hope Protectorate in the Gold Cup, in the hope that that wasn't a fluke at Aintree, and it doesn't matter what kind of ground he needs, because I think he's very exciting. And I just love the way that he was almost pulling Bridget's arms out, keenness-wise, at Aintree, but still got the job done very impressively. So I think he is going to be slightly underrated, hopefully going into Cheltenham. However, that's what we all think. Let's see what Lydia had to say on the matter.
I'm going to disappoint you terribly with this answer. I can't recall having a multiple since I'm going to partly disappoint you with this answer. I can't recall having a multiple since I was about 11.
Well, to be honest, I think you're probably most sensible. How many multiples actually come in? I mean, almost none. So yeah.
No, I tend to just do, single bets. That's just the way I do, particularly since I've sort of started betting properly.
Right, on to our last section called Ahoy There. And fans of National Hunt Racing can only have been knocked over by Ahoy Senor so far this season. I know I certainly have. And it's now time for the Diversion special price. I know, Ryan, you guys at Paddy Power have a price on Lucinda Russell's Beast to run in the Gold Cup.
Yeah, we're 4-1 Tom to run the Gold Cup. And I think that's probably based on the fact they mentioned that he might get an entry in the race. And when things get into trainers and connections and heads, I think there's a big chance that it'll end up happening. And when you look at Coney Green, when you go back to him, he won it as a 7-year-old. A high senior will be 7 come Gold Cup time. So it can be done, and that they might take a bit of credence from the fact that Coney Green has done it. Although you'll see that on his chase debut, he seems a safe enough jumper. He looks the type that will relish a Gold Cup in time, whether it's next season or this season or not. So we're 4-1 as a special that a high senior will turn up in the Gold Cup in March.
Yeah, not a bad price that to turn up. Koenigsegg obviously won as a novice, and I think there are plenty of similarities between both he and also Ahoy Senor. But let's check out what Ruby and Lydia think of Ahoy Senor.
There was a rumour going around that Ahoy Senor, yours and my favourite, might get a Gold Cup entry this season. So I asked Peter Scudamore about it, and he confirmed that the horse may get an entry. He's got a concern that the horse might not be battle hardened enough for such a target this season, but he's going to be weighing up, he and Lucinda, the strength of the opposition from the likes of Willie Mullins, the likes of Henry de Bromhead in novice company, to compare that with what the Gold Cup might look like. They've obviously got an ambition to win the Gold Cup at one day. And he said, interestingly, that options for the horse's next race are the Quarto Star, but he also mentioned Warwick and the Winter Million at Lingfield. So that suggests that the Quarto Star isn't, we won't be certain of seeing Ahoy Senor in that race until we actually see him.
No, and I can understand that too, Lydia. When you win a race, you think, oh, that show will go next. And then you take them home and the euphoria of the victory is gone and you start thinking about it. So I notice some trainers will never give you the next target. And then it's not a target that's missed. Whereas when you commit to one, it can often be hard to get out of it. And Peter and Lucinda are changing there now. So, yeah. Look, I wouldn't be surprised. Warwick, a lot of jumping in Warwick. He'd learn a lot there.
He would, absolutely.
That's what they think. We've heard what Ryan thinks. But Brendan, what do you think about Ahoy Senor?
Well, it's a very exciting horse. I mean, he was a joy to behold. Newbury's a proper jump and test, and he laid waste to those fences. Yeah, it's great, not just for the English to have a proper novice chaser to get excited about, particularly for the North. To have a horse like that. So I wish them all the best of them.
Yeah, he certainly got that lovely grinding style the Northern Chasers have had in the past. That's it for this week's Road to Cheltenham, the diversion in association with Paddy Power. Tune in next time, though, for more Cheltenham chat.